everybody. My name is Dave Jackson, and welcome back to another Tales from the Backlog deep dive, where each week I'm joined by a guest to deep dive a game from our backlogs. Today's game is Pseudoregalia, but before we get into that, a few quick things. If this is your first time here, first of all, thank you for clicking on a new show. I appreciate you. Here's how spoilers work. We are not going to spoil the story of Pseudoregalia. We'll also not spoil, extremely specific things that won't mean anything to you if you've never played the game for a while. There is going to be a spoiler section in the episode, and there is a timestamp down in the show notes that will tell you when those spoilers begin. And if you like the show, please consider supporting however you can. You can do so monetarily on Patreon. That's patreon.com/realdavejackson. But you can also tell a friend. You can share it in a Discord server that you're in. You can leave a rating and review on the podcast apps. You can like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, and all those fun things. There are lots of ways to support however you're able, and I appreciate every one of those. Now, I am not here alone today to talk about Pseudoregalia. I have a guest, a new friend of the show, a streamer, host of the UnderPlayed podcast, and he can wall jump up the highest buildings. Welcome, Beau, aka Beau Po. Beau, how you doing?
Thank you for finally acknowledging that. I've been asking for people to acknowledge my wall jumping. Thank you, Dave Jackson. It's so great to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. We've gotten to know each other through Twitch, basically, but become a fan of your podcast, and we got to meet in person. So it's good to have you here on the show for the first time.
Yes, it was just 2 months ago when we grabbed lunch together at PAX.
Yeah, exactly.
And time has flown, 2 months already. But it was great to meet you. And I'm a very recent fan of the show, and I really enjoy everything you do and all the thoughtfulness you put into the work you create. It's just, I loved your PAX coverage. I watched your video on YouTube. I added things to my wish lists.
Hell yeah.
And I've been enjoying all the episodes and all the guests you've had. Thank you for having me.
Great. Thank you. Well, it's great to have you included in that stable of guests now for a fun game today. Today's game is Pseudoregalia. Again, it is a 3D platformer Metroidvania developed and published by Rittzler for PC in 2023. The game was directed and produced by Rittzler and produced by Matt. Also, in the credits, it's just Matt. So shout out to Matt. Yeah.
Matt, thank you. You might be listening. And, maybe anybody named Matt listening is this Matt. Thank you.
You know what? Yeah. Shout out to all Matts and shout out to all Ritzlers out there. As far as I know, it is, I try to shy away from saying, solo project, but it seems to be mostly the work of one person. We will have some more credits as we go along, but Rittzler is the primary developer of Pseudoregalia. And hey, what is Pseudoregalia? We have our quick elevator pitches here for the top of the show. I say this is a lost 3D platformer from the N64, where the only limit is your creativity. Beau, what would you say?
I agree with that. I would also say Pseudoregalia or Regalia. We have kind of a Balatro situation going on.
We have
here.
A civil war brewing on our hands here.
I will probably flip-flop between pronunciations, but I think this game is a gameplay-first 3D Metroidvania where movement and acrobatics take center stage. And you happen to play as, I'll say it, Dave,
go ahead,
a hot bunny goat cat lady.
There we go. Yeah.
You do. A
lot going on with Sybil in the design there, but yeah, agreed.
Yes.
So I played this on PC. It took me 5 hours, and that was to get the regular ending. I did not 100% the game. Beau, how about you?
I streamed this. So I put about 7.8 hours into the game, according to Steam. You know how it does like the tenths of hours on there. Some of that time is me chatting while I'm streaming. So like people are talking to me and I'm responding to them. We're having great interactions. People are commenting on the game. I'm also taking BRBs and I'm leaving the game up during that time. So I would probably put my playtime closer to like 6 hours.
Fair enough. Yeah. So not the longest game, we'll say. It's a pretty bite-sized game, which is nice for people who do a weekly show about different games. Now, we always start the show with our kind of histories with this game. And for this one, I think we don't talk about platformers a whole lot on the show. It's actually weird. Not too long ago now, by the time people hear this, I had a Psychonauts episode on the show. Now we have Pseudoregalia. We also have Bionic Bay. I think maybe last week as the schedule is laid out. It's like pretty heavy on platformers, 3D platformers though. So, Beau, two questions for you. Number one, are you a fan of platformers? And if so, what do you like about them? And number two, you picked Pseudoregalia from a list of games that I sent to you. So what was it that made you pick this?
Those are great questions. I do love platformers. Platformers were the games that I fell in love with first.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was growing up, my parents and my brother, they would play on the NES and the Super Nintendo all the time. And the games they would play were Mario games.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my fondest memories growing up was watching my brother and dad play Super Mario World before I could hold a controller and play that game. I would just watch them. And to this day, Super Mario World is probably my favorite game of all time. I learned that game by watching my brother and dad play it. And then when I was old enough to control it, I wanted to play Super Mario World, and I already knew it up and down, left and right. Nice. I knew all the secrets. I knew how to get all the secret exits. And so, yeah, Mario was a huge beginning game for me. Very influential in my love of platformers for my whole lifetime. And I do also love 3D platformers. Growing up, one of my first systems that I could call mine was the PlayStation 2. And that's where I had my Jack and Daxters, my Sly Coopers, my Ratchet and Clanks. I devoured those games. And so, and recently there are lots of 3D platformers that have come out. We are in a renaissance of 3D platformers, especially in the indie space. But I've also enjoyed Astrobot. I'm looking forward to Donkey Kong Bonanza, which as we sit down is imminently approaching. And I'm going to stream the heck out of that. I cannot wait. It is the game I bought a Switch 2 for.
Hell yeah.
And so, I love platformers. I forgot the other question.
The other question was when I sent you the list of games, why did Pseudoregalia jump out at you? Is it because it's a platformer?
Partly, but I also knew that it was a Metroidvania. And there's this Venn diagram with Metroidvanias and platformers where they both involve movement and jumping and accuracy with your locomotion and things like that. So I've also always been interested in Metroidvanias, but platformers have always been more... have always been easier for me to get into because there's less thinking when it comes to trying to figure out where to go. It's more just about like, can I beat this level? Can I see myself get noticeably better at this act of platforming? Yes, I can. It's always just like something that's really noticeable when I'm playing a platformer. But because Metroidvanias tend to have platforming, I'm always down to try one, even if I might get lost here and there. And I had heard a lot of things about Pseudoregalia and how just mysterious it was. I had never watched anybody play. So I didn't really know what I was getting into as far as like appearance with the game or how it controlled, what powers we had, even what we looked like. I had a vague idea based on the cover photo. That's about it. So it was just kind of like a mixture of, this is the kind of game that I tend to gravitate towards. And also, based on what I've heard, this is a mysterious game.
Ooh, love a little bit of mystery in the games we play for sure. For me, I kind of like you, I grew up with platformers as like, I think at its core, platformers are one of the more basic types of games. I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just like, a lot of earlier games on the NES and stuff, they're platformers because you can just make an obstacle course to run and jump through. And then, so I grew up mostly with the N64 and the Game Boy as my first kind of things that I played a lot of. And so Super Mario Land 2 on the Game Boy, Super Mario 64, Donkey Kong 64, those were the things. And so like, you said we're in a renaissance of indie platformers. We're especially in a renaissance of indie games calling back to like the N64 and the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2. So stuff like Pseudoregalia, I see it and it jumps out as like, that looks like a game I could have played on N64 back then.
Yeah.
And so That helps. The main thing though that really made this jump out to me was a friend, shout out to Juliet if you're listening. Juliet shared this in my Discord server when it came out, and she was talking about how amazing the movement was. And there's like different types of platformers out there. Not all platformers have to be these like expression masterpieces where you can do anything you set your mind to as long as you can chain stuff together. Like, they don't have to be that, but when they are that, I like seeing like, can I actually pull some of this cool stuff off? So this went on my Steam wish list where it sat forever because it's very cheap. And I have this weird brain bug where like a game that retails for $5 on Steam, I'll just scroll over in my wish list over and over again for no reason. Like, I don't need it to go on sale. But long story short, a friend, Chris Copleen, gifted this to me off of my Steam wish list. He saved it from just languishing there forever. So thank you, Chris.
Oh my gosh.
And this went on my 2025 backlog resolutions list.
Cool.
Yeah, another one checked off the list. And I'm glad that it got off of the wish list purgatory. And I'm glad that I actually booted it up and played it. I'm glad to have you on the show to talk about it, because those things that I heard about it, the things that you see if you watch a speed run, like GDQ is going on as we're recording this right now. Someone just did a sweet speed run of Pseudoregalia. So like, when you see clips of the game and you see how the movement works, you're like, that looks really fun. I would like to try that. And it's awesome. I had a great time playing this. And there's going to be some like parts of the discussion where we get into like the Metroidvania design, the super open-ended design, the kind of lack of signposting that's there, and how that is kind of divisive out there. I know some people really like this open-ended, if you feel like you can get up there, you're welcome to try type of design. And some people are like, I would like more of a hint on where I should go. And so we'll have a discussion on that. But this game, like on that Metroidvania side, did get me in that awesome flow state that I get into with Metroidvanias, where I am so like full of ideas for where to take my new abilities that I have a hard time putting Metroidvanias down. For a lot of games, a lot of types of games, I'll play in like 45-minute, an hour and a half bursts, and then I'll be like, okay, I'm good on this for tonight. Maybe I'll boot something else up. Maybe I don't. But with Metroidvanias especially, I get in this thing where I'm like, I can't stop. I got stuff to do. So we're going to go check here and check here and check here. Oh, I got this. That means I can go here and here and here. And suddenly, like, I've been playing for 3.5 hours. And this game is not very long. I said I played it in about 5 hours, but that's like 2, maximum 3 play sessions to beat the game, because I had a hard time putting it down. So that sounds like a successful game to me.
Yeah, I had the same experience. I streamed this again, and I had 2 streams. Each was several hours long. But yeah, I had 2 like longer play sessions with this. And yeah, this is a game that I think was on my wish list for a while as well. I heard about it, put it on my wish list. Again, didn't look into it that much. I just knew it was a Metroidvania, a platformer. I'm always down to try one of those. That's what gets me in to these games. And I actually picked this up in a Humble Bundle back in March 2024. And you just mentioned GDQ. The bundle was the Games Done Quick Frost Fatale's 2024 bundle, which also included Guilt, Abzu, Hylix 2, Dicey Dungeons, Mail Time, and Maid of Skur. So a bunch of other indie games, some of which I've played. Yeah. And so bought that bundle because it was irresistible. I think the bundle to get all those games was maybe around $15. So I couldn't pass it up. Like I had all, like pretty much all those games were on my wish list. I think there was one game I already had, but I bought that bundle. And then it goes from the wish list into the backlog, because then it's like, when do I play this? But then coinciding with that, on my show UnderPlayed, my co-host and I, my co-host Disco Cola and I, we will talk about potential featured games. And Pseudoregalia was one of those games that we both were sort of attracted to. A game that we both noticed was pretty popular. I think it has over 14,000 reviews on Steam, which is an indicator that the game has sold really, really well. because only a fraction of the amount of people who buy a game will actually leave a review. So this game is done really well, and the people who love it really love it.
But overwhelmingly positive too on Steam, as far as I know. So not only have a lot of people bought it, a lot of people really liked it.
Yes. And the things we look for in a featured game are, is it well known within the indie space? Is it renowned? Is it special? Those are the questions we ask. And sometimes it's not an exact science. Sometimes a game sort of straddles that line. And so we talked about Pseudoregalia a couple times. And I've told him, like, if you want to ever pick it as a secret game, which are like the lesser known games that we do on our show, if you want to play it privately and then review it on our show, I would be totally fine with that. But also I might want to do that someday. But I'm just letting you know that, feel free to take it whenever you want. So the other reason why I gravitated toward it for Tales from the Backlog is because I had recently had these discussions about this, and it just felt like this is the time. This is when I should play it. I should play it for Dave Jackson's show.
Nice. Well, I always love when the opportunity to come on the show brings an opportunity to get that game off of that list of like, I should really play that. Like, why have I not played that yet? And I love to give that chance to people when they come on. So overall, did you have a good time with Pseudoregalia?
I had a great time with Pseudoregalia. I think this is a game that is largely characterized by this castle environment that has this really desolate atmosphere, and that's adding to the mystery and intrigue that I mentioned. And this really feels like a game that respects a player's intelligence and intuition and experimentation. And recently, when I have loved a Metroidvania, it's because that Metroidvania does that. Animal Well was my game of 2024. That's a game that celebrates a player's intuition and ideas. And I feel like this game is doing that too. Maybe it has more to do with movement and the physicality of your character and getting height and getting distance. It becomes a puzzle in a way. How do I use my moveset to get to that place? Usually you can get to a place if you're creative enough. And I love that this game sort of allows me, it respects me to figure that out.
Exactly.
And I think the combat takes a back seat to the platforming. You can swing and hit enemies. There's melee in this game. But figuring out what you can do with all your abilities that you're given feels just as important as figuring out where you should go or where you can go, which is another thing you're figuring out in Metroidvanias all the time.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, we have a lot to discuss, so let's take a music break. Let's get into the Pseudoregalia type of mood, and when we come back, we will set up the story, a little brief chat about the story, and then we'll dig into the rest. In Pseudoregalia, you play as Sybil, who is an anthropomorphic goat lady who wakes up in a kind of prison of sorts and needs to escape, and the game kind of just lets you out to figure out where you're supposed to go, what's going on here, etc. The in-game storytelling is very, very sparse. There are places where you can like read notes that might give you a slight idea of what's going on, and then late in the game, they will like put it on the page, so to speak, of like what this is, what's going on. But interestingly enough, the Steam description gives you a lot of detail about what the game is before you even start it up. And I don't know about you, Beau, I never read Steam descriptions because if I'm going to a Steam page for a game that I don't know about, I'll just look at the trailer or the screenshots or maybe read some reviews. I tend to not read the synopsis on there. So this is actually really descriptive on here. Like, did you read this before you started playing?
I think I did. And these days I actually do read those synopses a lot because we do that on our podcast UnderPlayed.
Oh, true.
That's how we're setting up a ton of our games. But I don't always read them before I play the game, to be fair. I
Yeah.
think I did read the setup for this one just to, again, get me familiarized with the game before I jumped in, because I knew very little going in.
True, true. So, yeah, I guess it was one of those games where I kind of felt like, yeah, I know what's up. It's a, platformer. I know you play as the goat lady Sybil and stuff like that. So I actually read the Steam description after I finished the game for the first time, because I was reading somewhere and it just quoted the Steam description. I was like, whoa, they just say it. So the Steam description says, deep within the realm of sleep, Sybil finds herself pulled to a distorted castle. So something that like would be a late game twist in a lot of stories, you're in a dream.
Yeah.
That it's not a twist, it's in the Steam description. They want you to know that before you buy the game even. So the game takes place within a dream. It doesn't try to hide that, but the things that it does hide are whose dream is it? Why is Sybil there? Things like that. So if you are, if you're playing through this and you're trying to figure it out, you could formulate some ideas before the game just tells you at a certain point. So, did you find this, compelling? Like, are you playing this game wondering what's going on in the story? Or was it like me and I was like, I'm all gameplay here?
Yeah, no, I wasn't playing this game for the story, to be honest. Like you said, there are bits of flavor in the world that I
Mm-hmm.
really admire and respect. Going through the listless library, we get moments where Sybil can read books and just give brief comments and observations on that stuff. We can
Mm-hmm.
talk to little goat guys in the world, which
Right.
add a little bit of flavor as well. And, sometimes those characters are easy to fall in love with in games like this, but I didn't really find the little goat guys that compelling. There were a few that said comments that kind of like took my breath away. Just, one of them said, "I will kill again." It's just like little moments that catch you off guard.
Yeah.
Um, but as I was playing actively, I wasn't wondering about whose dream I was in a ton. That's something I started to think about more and more after I finished.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, the end does give us some more text, some more surface level information about what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that characterization at the end was helpful. There is a moment early on when this game sort of cold opens. Sybil walks through a mirror into this dream world. And I think it's either the moment you walk in or it's when you interact with the mirror. She says something like, I hope I'm not too late.
Mm-hmm.
And that tells us something immediately.
Yeah.
That tells us that Sybil knows that she is supposed to be here. She wants to be here. She has an intent. She has a purpose. She has a
Yeah.
mission. And so that maybe tells you this isn't her dream. Maybe she is a guest.
Right.
And I guess that lends itself to the Metroidvania idea of exploring and not knowing where you're supposed to go next. So pretty fitting, maybe.
Yeah, that's true. It does fit in that way. And for me to say, like, we will have a spoiler section where we will talk a little bit about the story. It's not going to be one where I have a ton to say, but I still don't want to like spoil it for everybody. So I guess it is a critique to say, like, I don't think the story is that deep or super interesting, but also, not every game has to be. If the gameplay side, carries the experience, then I'm still going to have a good time with the game. We always start the show by talking about the story, except in like very, very rare cases where I just throw up my hands and I'm like, not this time. But, this one does have enough of that to be like, yeah, you are here. There is a story. Like you said, there's a reason Sybil is here. And you may find it interesting. We could have a discussion that actually goes some places later on. We'll see. But I think you said, and I agree, this isn't the reason I'm playing the game, and the story didn't like win me over when I was playing or anything. It was still like mostly gameplay, music, and presentation. That's the real shit.
Yeah, and this is going back to another reason why I love platformers and why I fell in love with them. It's that this game sort of wants you to develop your raw video game playing skills. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is a gameplay first game, like you've said. And, it's a reason why you see behind me, I've got tons of juggling stuff. I love tactile things. I love
Mm-hmm.
juggling. I love video games. I love seeing myself get better. I just love that feeling. I'm not always the
Yeah.
best video game player. I don't try to tout myself as being like the best Pseudoregalia player, but I did notice myself getting more skilled the more I practiced using this game.
Yeah.
I love games that let us practice and then that also allow us to see that progress in our skills.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are, so many video games that are gameplay first. There are lots of designers who believe that video games should be all about the act of playing them and story is secondary. There's lots of, my friends and fellow podcasters, critics who that's what they value the most is what does this game actually feel like to play? Because that's the primary thing that I'm doing in here. The thing that sets it apart from other types of media is the play. So you mentioned, playing and noticing yourself getting better, practicing, learning about your skill set. That is what this game is all about. It's the platforming, it's the experimentation, figuring out, like you said at the top, like there's a thing up there. How do I get there? What combination of the skills that I have, maybe the skills that I have and I don't even know about, will let me get up and get that thing or get up to that door, etc. So that's like the secret thing about it's not the secret. It is this the essential quality of Pseudoregalia is it gives you a basic platforming toolkit. It then gives you some upgrades, Metroidvania style. There's some hidden things that the game doesn't say that you can do, but you can do, and you can figure them out by, sometimes I learned how to do some stuff by like panic button mashing and be like, oh, you can do a little like air backflip okay, I'll remember that, stuff like that.
Yep.
So this is super fun, even before we start getting into the movement upgrades, because those just expand the toolkit. And by the time I finish this game, I could look at anything, anywhere in a room and be like, I can get up there. I know I can get up there. Let's just try and string together the right sequence of stuff.
You've had to combine so many things up to that point that you sort of have this toolbox. You have the toolbox of moves, but you also have the toolbox of the combinations of moves that you've used in every room up to that point. So you feel like you can take on anything.
Mm-hmm. And the moves are all like there's a lot of verticality in Pseudoregalia levels. They're huge levels. Like individual rooms can be massive. You can look up and see things like way high up there. And you always wonder at first, how the fuck am I going to get up there? And then you figure it out. Or maybe you get an upgrade that helps out. But it is all about like, okay, this move will give me a ton of horizontal distance, not much vertical distance. This move gives me a ton of vertical distance, but also like it there's a wall kick. That's one of the upgrades that you get. And wall kicks, wall climb type moves are really common in especially 2D Metroidvanias. But those will let you like hop your way up walls. Like think Hollow Knight's like wall kick move. Pseudoregalia pushes you away from the wall, like a lot of horizontal distance too. So you can't use it in the same way, but it's still super valuable. You just have to figure out, how do I use it in here? It's one of the things I really like about this game's upgrades and just general platforming toolkit is it feels like they didn't fall in the trap of being like, well, here's what the standard moves in every platformer, every Metroidvania are. So, all right, so here's your double jump because that's always the first upgrade you get. Here's your double jump, here's your air dash. And Pseudoregalia doesn't do that. They may have things that do similar things at the end of like, they accomplish similar goals, but they're giving you very different ways of getting that horizontal distance or getting that vertical distance. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I was doing that game in this, I was doing that waiting game of where's my double jump? Where's my double jump? I was waiting and waiting for it. And I had a very similar experience in Blasphemous within the past few years. I was waiting for my double jump in Blasphemous. Spoiler alert, it doesn't come. You get other awesome stuff though too. And that's what I love about the surprise of upgrades in Metroidvanias sometimes. When done right, it feels like a joy. It feels like such a surprise to get something that augments your skill set, but that doesn't match your expectations. It can be an imaginative choice. It can be a really inspired choice. And it can be a choice that's very particular to the game you're playing. It can add a personality to the Metroidvania you're playing when you get, maybe this isn't the only game to give us like a spring, like a downward plunge that gives us a high jump. But that basically is our double jump in this game. And I'll always think about that when I think of Pseudoregalia, because that's probably the move I use the most, other than the slide jump and just general moving.
Mm-hmm. And the wall kick also. I mean, like Sybil is kind of a goat, so wall kicking and stuff might be. I just thought of that on the spot. That might not make any sense, but hey, we're recording. I'm stream of consciousness talking now. I'm not thinking. So, but the wall kick is different from other wall kicks. Like you said, you don't get a high jump. You get a move that does a ground pound, and then if you jump when you're ground pounding, you'll spring up and do a high jump. You don't get an air dash, you get a slide, and if you jump while you're sliding, you'll then do like a long jump move. So it's all of those things that like accomplish the same goal of, get over this long horizontal gap, but they do it in a special Pseudoregalia way. And like you said, it gives this game character, it gives Sybil character as a platforming, video game character. And again, the thing that like brings it up to like an absolute joyous like game experience is figuring out, okay, I know I have to get up to the top of that little like tower thing there, but it's too high to do the high jump thing. What else can I do to get up there? And you for sure have something that will help you get up there. Or like some of my favorites were like, okay, so the easy combination of two moves almost gets me over there. But what creative thing can I do to get myself like one more foot of horizontal distance or one more foot of vertical distance? I love problem solving like that. And I said, I don't remember when I said this recently, but when we talk about like games having interesting gameplay, I think what it really boils down to is interesting decision making. And then in something like this, executing with your hands, of course, but interesting decision making. And Pseudoregalia is full of interesting like experimenting and decision making and stuff like that.
Yeah, and sometimes it comes down to just maybe I'm aiming at the wrong wall. Maybe I'm trying to I had that happen so many times. I'm trying to wall jump between two walls to get across a dangerous pit. Maybe I've been aiming at the left wall. Maybe the right wall is the one I should aim at. And so just changing one little variable about what you're trying is the key. Or maybe it's the angle. Maybe I'm hitting it at like a 45-degree angle. Maybe it needs to be a skinnier angle. And then that gets me the distance that I need with that wall kick or something like that.
Yeah, there were lots of rooms where I was just coming up short. And then when you finally, like you said, change that one variable, tweak something a little bit, maybe hit a wall at like, you got to hit the wall at like the peak of your jump, or figure out how to do that little weird backflip thing that you did accidentally an hour ago. And then suddenly, because you mantle onto ledges, and it's pretty forgiving most of the time. So when you finally do grab that ledge, you're like, fuck yeah. And you can get an upgrade or a new door that takes you into a new area. It's just really fun when a game allows you to be super expressive like this. And I feel like this is probably not fair, but I feel like I get this experience more with 3D platformers than 2D platformers. When I think 3D platformers, I think Mario Odyssey, Mario 64. I'm running. There's an indie thing that's in development now called The Big Catch that's all about stuff like this.
I played that at PAX.
There we go. Yeah. And Pseudoregalia, whereas a 2D platformer feels to me like a series of obstacles to be overcome to like reach the end of the level. It feels more challenge based, whereas a 3D platformer feels like it has more room for this expressive type of play, experimentation. I've seen people like play like A Hat in Time kind of looks like this. I'm going to stop naming games before I run out of good examples, but you know what I mean here?
Sure. Yeah. No, there's dimensionality. There's just more, you're in a 3D space, and you're getting a lot more moves than you would get in your average 2D platformer. And so every time you get a new move, that's adding a variable to your skill set. And then that's maybe something you can combine with 2 or 3 other things.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you're just always adding to your arsenal of moves. And I look at the platforming as solving a puzzle too. Um,
Yeah.
I need to cross a long gap. How many wall kicks do I have? I only have 3. Okay. Maybe I need to do a spring jump to get more vertical space to allow me to get to this other place first. And yeah, you can eventually find passive upgrades as well that really make your journey easier. So there's that going on. It's not
Mm-hmm.
just you're finding things that you input, moves that you press a button to execute. Sometimes you're finding a 4th wall kick that you can do in a sequence. And
Mm-hmm.
so for people who are looking for those kinds of upgrades, they are here too. You can upgrade your health. You can upgrade how effective your healing is. When you do heal, you'll
Yeah.
heal more orbs eventually. So I appreciate that that's in the game as well.
Yeah, for sure. And they hide those upgrades in a really rewarding way where like it's one of those games where if you go in a room and you're like that corner looks suspicious. I bet there's something. There probably is something
There it
there
is.
to reward you for, trying to get there. That's, you know, the reward is partly getting to the place you're trying to get to. It's like the reason why when I play Breath of the Wild, I don't care if I open a chest and there's 5 arrows in there. It's because I had to solve a puzzle and I feel good just getting up to that chest.
Yeah,
Pseudoregalia has stuff like that too, for sure.
definitely. And a lot of those sort of optional upgrades, they are on paths that I usually think are toward a main upgrade. And
Hmm.
so, for some reason, I'm really drawn to this idea of going to this unexplored space. I think this is where I'm going to get a major upgrade. And
Yeah,
then I get like maybe a third of the way to a health upgrade. It's one of those
right.
like, I don't know what you call them, the purple yellow things that upgrade your health.
Hmm.
And I'm satisfied for 2 reasons. Like, I didn't get the main upgrade, I didn't get the big ability, but I'm working toward making my character stronger. And I do feel rewarded for crossing off a path from my
Yeah.
list because it's been bothering me that I can't get there yet.
Yeah, that's Metroidvanias for me is like
Yeah.
part of the fun of those games is there was this door I couldn't get to. Now I get in there, I see what's in there. It, it does matter what's in there, but it doesn't 100% matter what's in there because part of the joy is also like exploring all the parts in the map. And the best Metroidvanias are full of secrets and they're full of like things to try. Pseudoregalia is notable as far as being a Metroidvania because it's much more open-ended than like a Hollow Knight, for example, or a Nine Souls. Like the game kind of just spits you out into this central hub area, and normal people, not speedrunners, but normal people are kind of gated by, this thing's way too high. I can't get up there right now. But there are lots of places that you can go. It's not a game that like will funnel you down one path, then you pick up an upgrade and you have 2 paths that open up and one's the critical path, one's not. Like it's not like that. It's much more open-ended. And this is a thing that can be freeing for some people. They can feel the freedom to go anywhere they feel like they put their mind to. And Pseudoregalia is kind of like that. Even there are places where it's like maybe the developer has an intended order for you to go and get the upgrades in these different areas in the map. But like if you try really hard, you can get to places out of order.
Mm-hmm.
And the game is not really designed in a way that that's going to cause a problem for you.
Yeah.
But some people might see that freedom as I don't know where I'm supposed to be going.
Yeah.
If 60% of the map is accessible from the beginning of the game, then that's a lot of space that I could explore and maybe like I missed a door here, that's where the upgrade is. And I missed it because the game wasn't telling me I should be going there. Like so there's kind of this fork in the road here. So how did you feel
Yeah.
about this design?
I'm of 2 minds about this. One, so I respect what's going on with what you're describing. And there's
Hmm.
another part of it that makes me wish that maybe things were a little bit more intentionally designed or ordered for the player. the reason I respect it is because I think this is another example of the game respecting the player and just
Yeah.
letting the player go wherever. I think that is intentional. I think the developer wants the player to feel this freeness, this openness to go wherever. This world is pretty much just open to you and you go most places. There are things like the black orbs, like the black hole looking things that you need to hit with a certain upgrade to be able to jump over. You know, you
Mm-hmm.
can't access every single room, but you can get to pretty much every area. Every main area is accessible in some way.
Yeah.
And I really like that because that is always giving me an option of something to try. I don't feel stuck. I don't usually feel bottlenecked. And that's a good thing to have in a Metroidvania. But a Metroidvania also needs to have a balance where it's not holding your hand, but it's not opening things up so much that I'm overwhelmed. And there are times in this game where I do get overwhelmed. And I'm someone who's played a lot of Metroidvanias. I've played tons of platformers. This is not a game I would recommend to every game player out there, unfortunately. I think this game is kind of slightly more on the intense side when it comes to the skill level required of just putting in inputs with exploration. A lot of people just don't like exploring a ton. Some people could find more approachable Metroidvanias. I don't think this is one of the more approachable Metroidvanias, especially for a newcomer to the genre. Would you agree?
I would say so because of both of the things that you just said. Number one, so it is a pretty demanding platformer. Like the hardest platforming challenges were tough. And as you were saying that, I was kind of thinking like, so there's optional upgrades that you can find, like your health upgrades and stuff, and a lot of those are hidden around corners. You know, they're not super hard to get to, but you might not notice that there's a place like a little alcove up in the corner or something like that. And that's where a lot of that stuff is hidden. The critical path progress through Pseudoregalia, I feel like I hit all of the map. Like I feel like I hit every room in the map, which is not the case in a Metroid game, for example, or a Hollow Knight, for another example.
It's true.
You don't need to do a lot of those optional things to beat the game, whereas I feel like you do need to do most of the hard platforming stuff in Pseudoregalia to beat the game. So because of that, like it is kind of demanding of your platforming skills, and it's also like that lack of direction. Even if it's like, you know, some games will just, you know, spotlight the main path and not spotlight the optional paths. Like Pseudoregalia doesn't have anything like that. It's just, here are the doors. You can see most of the doors when you walk into a new room.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, just go try all of them, see what's behind them. And I got into a couple of points in the game where I felt like I had explored as much as I possibly could with the tool set that I had. And it turned out like way back there, 3 levels ago, an hour and a half of play ago, there was one door that I said I would check later and then forgot about. And that door had the one upgrade I needed to unlock the rest of the map and the rest of the game.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. I had a similar. Mine was a disbelief. Actually, mine had to do with. And I don't think this is a spoiler, but there's an area called the Tower. I'll just call it the Tower. There's an area with a tower, and I truly believed, like reading the thing that was at the tower. There's like a little plaque you can read with a hint on like whether you can get in. I was kind of reading into it a little bit too much. I was kind of reading it literally. I was looking at my powers, trying to evaluate, do I have what I need to get in there? And I tried some things, and I truly believed I could not get into this tower, right? And I thought, well, this is just an area I'm supposed to eventually get to. It turns out the tower is very important. And it turns out I could get there, but the path was not really spelled out, not really obvious, didn't really use the things we see in other games like lighting cues or set decoration or just layout to clue us into the importance of that.
Yeah.
And it was my second revisit where I figured out how to get in there. So I left, came back, tried some things again, left, came back, tried some things again. Oh, I can get in there. Okay, we're on a roll. And then I got the thing that I needed that unlocked so much. There was one other time, I don't know if we've mentioned the major keys, but in this game, you're trying to gather a handful of keys. They're called major keys. You can find smaller keys that unlock small doors here and there. But the big key items of the game are called major keys, and they're spread all around. I had a frustrating back and forth series of explorations where order does kind of matter between some of the keys, because one of the keys is in an area that gives you an upgrade that you definitely need for this other key. And I discovered that other key first. I couldn't get to it, and I revisited that place a few times, realized later that I had to get that first key. And so there's nothing really in the world that's telling me or cluing me into that order. It's just trial and error, which is fine. I mean, we do that in Metroidvanias, but there maybe could have been a little bit more signposting or a little bit more of a clue to that. Maybe it's in the game. I just didn't see it.
Yeah, the example you gave with the tower is the exact same thing that happened to me. I read the thing on the plaque and I was like, oh, I need some different story items to open the tower. And then I walked away, and like you said, that's not true. You could get into the tower if you figure out how to do it. And if anyone played the game and you're like, Dave, you should be more observant of your surroundings. Yes, I agree. But also, this is not an isolated incident of being like, well, I felt like I explored it. I read the thing, that thing was confusing. Yeah. Another time was the example where like I forgot to go in a door, and that was like the one place I needed to go, as opposed to these other 13 places I decided to try instead. So that open-ended design is freeing, and it like you said, Beau, it respects us as players to figure it out, because we are smart enough at the end of the day to figure this stuff out. The other side of this is also, when this game launched, it didn't have a map, which sounds insane to me.
I can't believe that. That's shocking. That is shocking to me.
Insane, because these individual rooms are not distinct enough most of the time to help me remember. Compare it with something like Dark Souls that doesn't have a map, but I don't need a map because everywhere you go is so memorable that you remember being there and you remember what connects to it and stuff like that.
Yeah, the interconnectedness is huge in those games.
Right. And that's a thing in Pseudoregalia too, but those connections were very hard for me to remember because of it's not like the areas look the same, but there's a lack of a memorable quality to some of those connections.
Yeah, it's homogenous. There you can be I think of Castle Sansa, sort of one of the main areas. I would call it one of the main areas of the game. Yeah. That place can look repetitive. A lot of rooms look similar, just a lot of repeating textures, a lot of the same gray on all the walls. And it's like, wait, which room is this? And I could step into a room I've never been in before, and it would kind of look like 3 or 4 other rooms I've been in.
Yeah, so the good thing about the map is it will not show a room until you go into it. So it's the classic, like, I see an open door and there's nothing on the other side. That means I haven't been there yet. So you can figure that out. The map doesn't show you where in the room you are, which doesn't sound like a problem, but these rooms are so big and some of them have like 5 or 6 exits. And so I'd play the game of like, walk into a room, open the map, walk back out, see what room I'm now in, and then...
I think the more we talk, the more I'm convinced you and I played this game very similarly, because I did the same thing. I'm directionally challenged in games like this, especially in 3D games. I need the map to show me where I am on the map. I also would love if the map had just a little bit more detail. I mean, these rooms are all colored the same. We don't really get markers. We don't get icons representing a ton. So just a little bit more info. I'm really tough on maps in games, I'll be honest. Like I really want every map to just be the best map I've ever seen in a game. I always have like super high expectations for maps specifically. That's like a thing that I have, unfortunately, for this game. But yeah, I guess I'm glad I didn't play this when it launched because I am appreciative that there is a map, but I think every Metroidvania should just have a map. That should just be part of the deal.
Yeah, I am just going to go ahead and say, if I played this game without a map, I wouldn't have finished it, just straight up. It would have been too frustrating to try to remember that one room all the way across the map. I don't remember how to get there. I don't remember where it is. I had trouble with that with the map. So like I would do that thing where it'd be like, okay, open the map. There's an open door across the map. So I'm in that mode where I'm like, I've exhausted all the places. I need to go one by one to all the doors that are still open and figure it out. And I spend 10 minutes going across, getting back to that door. And it's a thing I can't get to because I don't have the right upgrade. And like you said, like the one with the black orbs, like I went in that room and my head sunk like 3 separate times. It's like, oh, this room again. I just forgot where this room is because none of the spaces are that memorable to where I can build a mental map.
I'm so spoiled by other maps and games where we can put markers on the map. I would have loved even just
my kingdom for a pin to put.
Exactly. Just give me a circle, a triangle, and a square. I'll take that. And then I can come up with a system myself. I don't need it to be that intricate.
Yeah.
And I think there's maybe a justification for that with you being in a dream world. Like if you have a map, of course, maybe you could put symbols on the map. I guess it would make sense within the context of what's going on. Yeah. But also I think that's sort of something that's a given in a lot of modern games, even though this does have a throwback style. It does harken back to the PS1 games of yore. It does feel more modern to control, of course. It does seem like it's revering a past generation of games. There are modern things that it does. I wish it did some of those more modern things with the map specifically.
Yeah, agreed. So overall, like on the Metroidvania side of things, it's really challenging to find everything because you basically do have to you have to go to all of the major places. And if you don't have to go to 100% of the rooms, I feel like you have to go to most of them to get all the upgrades, get all those major keys, and then go to the end of the game, take those keys to the end of the game. So even within that challenge though, I do want to like kind of restate that there's this beautiful feeling I get in Metroidvanias, some other types of games that are like my favorites, where I just have so many ideas about what I want to do, where I want to go, what I want to try doing. Maybe I just picked up a new upgrade and I'm like, I think I know how to get up to that thing again. And so I'm like really compelled to go do that. And that kind of cycle just continues and continues. And like I said, I'll look up and I'll be like, oh, I've been playing Pseudoregalia for 2.5 hours. I did do that. So like, you know, critiques aside of a little bit of inherent frustration with the way the game is designed and how open it is, and with the map and how unhelpful it can still be, I still found myself in that state where like I really, really enjoyed playing the game. I wanted to keep playing. I wanted to keep exploring. I mean, exploration is one of my favorite things in games. Earlier you said like, you know, there's some people that don't want to explore, and I'm like, woohoo, could not be me. That's that's the main thing I want to do. Amazing. So
cool.
I still really had a good time, even despite being frustrated sometimes. And there were a couple times I used a little bit of like platformer literacy, I guess. And I would like see a room and be like, I bet there's a wall run to get across that.
Yes.
And so I'd like Google and be like, all right, where's the wall run? I did that one time.
Okay.
And it turned out to be something that, well, I won't spoil it in case people want to play it, but sure. you know what I'm talking about.
I do.
So I did have that, but I did have that beautiful flow state that I get into with my favorite Metroidvanias. So is that a brain chemistry thing being manipulated? or was I genuinely having a great time? It almost doesn't matter. I was having a good time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I loved breaking down that stuff too. I also really enjoy exploration. I love just how quickly you can move too. Even if I'm moving through a room that I've been to half a dozen times before, I know I can get to the other end of the room really quickly. And
Mm-hmm.
we did point out some critiques, but it doesn't really take too much time to get from any part of this game to any other part of this game. You just kind of have to pull open the map a lot.
Yeah.
And that did get a little bit more comfortable as time went on. You just have to be willing to pull open that map, maybe do that trick where you walk back and forth through a doorway and you're on your way. Some areas you don't think will interconnect, and then they do. So I also love shortcuts in games. We do get that here. And so, your maneuverability, your access to things gets much better, just like in tons of other games like this.
Yep. And then if you want to take it to a super high level with all of that stuff, like go watch, if I remember, I'll link a speed run that I watched in the show notes so people can check it out. And it's one of those games where like, I thought I was pretty good at it by the end of it. And then I watched a speed run and I was like, whoa, I am nowhere near that. But that's speedrunners. They're gaming superheroes. So
yeah, it's probably a good thing we didn't watch that before we played, because then I'd be trying to I just feel self-conscious the whole time while I'm streaming. Like I can't do those maneuvers.
Yeah. I can't clip through the walls like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I'll have to watch that. That's so cool.
Yeah. So gameplay, a bit of a mixed bag, some critiques, some good stuff, but I think the main thing that matters the most, the movement, is as advertised. It's very, very good. And then it will allow you to maybe overcome some of the frustrations a little bit if you're experimenting and maybe feel like you're getting places that you shouldn't be. So overall, I think that's the most important part I think in a lot of platformers, if you could condense it down to like, what's the thing they have to nail? It has to feel good to move your character around and jump and do the stuff. And Pseudoregalia knocks that out of the park.
Yes, bless. That is something that this game slays at. I'm fine with the combat not really being the most deep and the most compelling, as long as the movement immediately feels good. That's always what you look for, and it's working. You feel like, you're very powerful. You feel this just really nice sense of movement to Sybil. I love this is probably one of my favorite feeling 3D platformers when it comes to just the main character and moving and jumping on a basic level.
Yeah, agreed. I forgot to mention the combat. That's how little I thought or felt about it. There is a good amount of combat, a good amount of like little enemies to fight as you're going through rooms. There are a couple of boss fights. The combat's not good. It feels very impactless. That's the main thing. Like, it's not a very deep combat system, and you get this big, like cross basically that you fight with.
Yeah, it's like a sword, but it's a cross. Yeah.
Right. And
you
so
hold it underhanded too, which is really badass.
It's very cool. And it has like this big chunky sound. There's a couple enemies that will knock it out of your hands.
Oh yeah.
And it will like fly across the room. There's this big thunk when it lands and you're like, oh, heavy weapon. But it doesn't feel like that when you're fighting stuff. It feels like a pool noodle when you're fighting stuff.
I love that. Yes.
It's one of those things where like the game engine feels like it was made for like really expressive fluid movement. And then suddenly you slow down and you're like walking around and trying to hit stuff with your thing. And it just doesn't feel great once you slow down to that speed and that kind of rhythm.
Yes. And I had a lot of frustration in one-on-one fights. I'm thinking of when you're fighting the knights in this game, which are, they're daunting. They swing fast. They're aggressive. Feels like I'm playing Bloodborne all of a sudden. And I'm doing lots of like really, I call it like airy swings, like swings that, like the pool noodle example is a great way to describe it. But then also I feel like some of my hits just aren't registering. Like I see my sword clipping through the enemy. Like I'm making physical contact, but I don't see the impact effects telling me, oh, that wasn't a hit that's taking away its health. And sometimes it's happening because I'm at a certain angle. Maybe the enemy is at a certain angle. So that was a little frustrating. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think sliding away from enemy swings is really satisfying. You get into this groove of evasion where you need to use your
Yeah.
slide maneuver. And that's going back to our movement mechanics and our options, our abilities. And that's bringing it into the combat. I do love that, where you're basically forced to slide away to dodge attacks sometimes. So I like that it's making me use my movement brain in this game when I'm in combat sometimes. Yeah, and there's the boss fight early on. I thought that was a really interesting idea. We get arena rooms where we fight lots of small enemies before a door opens up, which I appreciated. I like those moments that break things up. I would have loved more boss fights. I would have loved I feel like this game plays with that idea. It introduces this idea of let's have a boss fight early on. And I go, oh, this is something we're going to do in this Metroidvania. And this happens in tons of Metroidvanias. We're going to get bosses and then we don't get bosses. And I feel like that's a missed opportunity too. So nothing inherently wrong with the game. It's just one area where I wish there was a little bit more of that. It gave me a tease and now I want more.
Yeah. I didn't love either of the boss fights that we fight. The final boss is like kind of cool, but I thought it was too long. Maybe I just didn't upgrade enough to make it feel shorter. The thing that I would wish for if there were more bosses, or if this developer is making another game like this, I would wish that there were boss fights that incorporated the platforming, like make me figure out a way, like it's floating up in the air and I need to wall kick chain into something else to be able to go over and knock it down and stuff like that. Like
it's a big titan and you need to get to its head, like how do I platform through the room just to get to the weak spot or something? Yeah.
Right.
Like a Shadow of the Colossus kind of thing.
Yeah, that would be my wish, because boss fights in a lot of games, they're there to kind of test you on mechanics that you're supposed to have learned throughout the run up to that boss fight. Yeah. So that would be what I wish in Pseudoregalia, is because it's a platforming game, first and foremost. Test me on platforming under pressure from time to time. Because a lot of the other platforming challenges, if you mess up, you probably fall down to the bottom of that challenge, or you'll fall into a pit and then you respawn. Like, I always hesitate, because I don't think a lot of games have great boss fights. I always hesitate to wish for more boss fights, but that would be that would be the wish, is make it more of a platforming challenge than I need to dodge all these attacks for a long time and then I get my 5-second window to hit as many times as I can. Sure. And then it's time to dodge a bunch of attacks. Like, that's not really what I'm playing this game for.
Right. Well, what I think of with that first boss fight, not so much the last boss fight, because I am moving around a lot with that last boss fight, but the first one, funnily enough, this is a game that sort of makes my hands hurt because I'm putting in so many movements, especially when I'm platforming.
Yeah.
When I'm fighting, I feel like my hands are actually taking a break because I'm putting in less inputs per minute.
Yeah.
And so that's another reason why I wouldn't mind more boss fights, is to just break up the flow of what I'm doing, but then also give my hands a break. This is something Disco Cola and I talk about on UnderPlayed. We talk about games that make our hands hurt. This actually is a game that made my hands hurt. But
I can see it.
I don't fault the game for that. I think, again, it's just because I was playing it for hours at a time like you. I was playing it for 3-4 hours at a time. And when I'm just pressing buttons that many times per hour, that's going to happen.
Yep, for sure. All right. Well, we do have the presentation left to talk about. So let's take this chance for another music break before we come back, and we'll talk about what the game looks and sounds like. All right, so visuals first. Visual presentation, as I said at the top, feels like a lost Nintendo 64 game. And, I'm not the best at distinguishing N64 versus PlayStation 1, but these kind of textures, big polygons, things like that, that reminds me of the Nintendo 64. That's the vibe that I get. So as far as that vibe, this feels like one of those games that like it's not mimicking the visual style, but doing more than the N64 could do. That might not be true. Again, I don't really know. But the thing that I kind of associate with Nintendo 64 is like bright colors. Maybe that's Nintendo versus this game. But it's not a very like colorfully striking game. Like I don't think I walked into very many areas and was like, this area looks nice, you know? And that's not a dig at like the Nintendo 64, the PlayStation 1 style of graphics, because those can look really nice. It just feels plain to me.
Oh, okay.
There's like the library level that like it has stuff because it's a library. But other than that, it's not a place, it's not a level like we talked about earlier where it's like, if they didn't have like the title cards come up on the areas, I would be like, where am I half the time?
True. Yeah. And it also shows up on the map. I think the color palette is doing a lot to carry the differentiation. Again, rooms can feel sort of homogenous. So if I'm going through Castle Sansa, I will see some of the same textures, some of the same walls, some of the same colors over and over and over again. But I do feel like all the areas are distinct enough for me. I think what maybe is not as attractive for me is just that it's not a very welcoming place. And this is going back to your comment maybe about like the colorful Mario 64s of the world.
Yeah.
This is a brooding place. This is a place that it's not like horrific. It's not scary. It's not full of terror, but there's something dangerous. It feels like you're not in a good dream, in a bad dream. You're here to save someone who is in anguish, right? So I do give credit to the visuals for sort of portraying that idea that there's a heaviness to how the game feels and looks. It's not always my favorite feeling to sit in. So I think there's a combination of things going on. Maybe there's not a lot of set decoration to inform the personality, but also it's just not a very welcoming looking place. And I nonetheless played this for hours at a time, so it didn't drive me away. So that's good. But it's super interesting visual style. I do think that the areas are all distinct enough for me.
Yeah, like if you go through a transition, they do look different enough where you're not like, am I still in the same area and stuff like that? But I just don't feel like a lot of them have enough character to like really stand out. And we talked about that before fair. With the map. Kind of with that dreamlike quality that you mentioned, the levels are kind of made as like video game platforming levels. Like there's no sense of like, this is a real room that people, did stuff in.
True.
So that kind of thing can play into like a gameplay first kind of design, which is fine, but it can also play into like, hey, we're in a dream. It's fucked up in here.
Yeah, true. Like I guess there's the justification is there. Like think about the underbelly.
Yeah.
What the hell is that place?
Yeah, exactly. What's going on?
Who designed that?
Nobody works there. You know?
Right. Who would want that? I don't want that life. I don't know why any of that exists in that configuration with that much height and all those pits and all those doors in that main room. What the hell?
Yeah.
But you can explain it away by just going like, oh, it's a dream. It's fine.
It's a dream. Yeah. It's a messed up version of a real place.
Yes.
Stretched and twisted in a bunch of different ways. Also dreamlike is the music. So 3 principal credits for the music: Potato Tito, Plus W Plus, and Still Crisp are the 3 names associated with the soundtrack. And I love the soundtrack. So the kind of dreamlike quality that you mentioned that you got from the visuals, I think the music is doing most of the lifting there. It is kind of diverse. There's not actually a whole lot of tracks on the soundtrack, but all the tracks are distinct. So I think the music probably gives more character to the different areas than the way that they look, for me personally.
Yeah.
What did you think of the soundtrack?
I also loved it. I have started playing this music on my streams when I'm like on my starting soon scene or BRB
Nice.
scene. Tracks from various areas stand out to me. I think of Outside the Castle Walls, which is from Empty Bailey. I think of Pages of Solemnity from Listless Library, and I think of Delirious Acting, which is from Twilight Theater. This soundtrack, I'm not going to be the best at describing how it sounds. I think people should listen to it, but I think it does a really good job of blending old school sorts of sounds with
Yeah.
new sounds. That's really like the shortest way I could describe it.
Yeah, I just kind of wrote down some quick kind of feelings that I got from some of the songs, and it does feel like kind of a blending of maybe inspirations, games that these people liked,
Mm,
a long time ago. There's a song called "Their Subdued History" that really sounds like a Kingsfield song
okay.
to me. And I love the Kingsfield music. It's super different from, modern From Software stuff. Got that feeling from that song. There's one song called "A Forgotten Fortress" that sounds like PlayStation, Final Fantasy music. You walk into a dungeon or maybe like a certain town and it's got kind of like a darker feeling in there, and you'd have this kind of song playing in the background. And then there's the Twilight Theater song, Delirious Acting, reminded me of like a Castlevania type song
Yeah.
with like the organ type sound and stuff like that. So different types of sounds, and again, not a very big soundtrack. If I had to guess, there's maybe like 15 songs on it.
Yeah. Not too
Um,
much.
yeah, one song per area, a song for each boss fight. You got yourself a soundtrack. But it does lend a lot of that kind of dreamlike quality to the songs, because if I just mentioned three very different types of sounds, they're all unified in that kind of like dreamy, ethereal type of feeling that they give. If I had to try to describe, how they play into the game itself, but on their own, they're still very pleasant songs to listen to. They would be great, stream starting soon
Yeah.
types of
I
songs.
was listening to this soundtrack in my car and having a great time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just love the combination of visuals and music. The intersection there is
Hmm.
also what gives that throwback feeling, that dreamlike feeling. I just think it's a great marriage there.
Yeah, absolutely. And the best video games are a showcase of a bunch of different disciplines all moving the same direction, right? So art enhances music, enhances gameplay, enhances story. That's the good shit right there. So this is nice. It's a nice soundtrack. All right. So at the end of the non-spoiler portion of the episodes, we always kind of give, if we have wrap-up thoughts, thoughts in summary, but also who do we think we would recommend the game to? Because as we said earlier, it's a little bit complicated. It's not one that me personally, I would say, well, if you like platforming, if you like Metroidvanias, definitely give it a try. Some little caveats there. So what would you say there, Beau?
I would say so. Just like final thoughts, I am very impressed with this game. I think it is one that platforming fans and Metroidvania fans will want to just keep on playing and playing and playing, like us. I agree with those comments. I would recommend it to 3D platforming fans who love a retro style. We've had a lot of those recently in
Mm-hmm.
platformers. We have a lot of upcoming platformers this year and next that will explore that style. So this kind of feels like it was closer to like the beginning of that wave of that happening. And it really, I think it is a game that is inspired by a lot of past works. And I think it is a game that inspires future games as well.
Yeah, agreed.
It feels more modern to control than something like a Super Mario 64. And I'm going to say something very controversial right now, and that's that I don't really like how Super Mario 64 feels to control.
Ooh.
That's not a game that has stood the test of time for me. I fumble with that game a little bit, and I kind
Mm-hmm.
of get more frustrated than I have fun with Super Mario 64. I love Mario games. I love pretty much all of them. Super Mario 64 is not my favorite game.
Mm-hmm.
But even though this looks like it came from that era, it feels so slick to control. And that was
Mm-hmm.
a huge relief for me. That was a worry going in. I was like, is this going to kind of also feel like it's from the N64 era, like controller wise. It feels very modern. And so if that sounds appealing to you, I think you should pick it up as well. I would also recommend Pseudoregalia to people who enjoy locomotion and movement tech and speed running in games. I don't think that's a requirement to enjoy this game or to try it. But for those of you who are into that, you probably already know about this game and you've probably at least wishlisted it or you've bought it and it's on your backlog. And so I think you should take it off the backlog and play it. Let's go.
Yeah. I agree. I think the primary thing is for anyone who likes a 3D platformer that is just very smooth and responsive and expressive to control, then look no further than Pseudoregalia. It's really good at that.
Yes.
And that's the reason I wanted to play it, and that's my favorite thing about it. So like that promise paid off really, really well. The other thing is the Metroidvania side, which we kind of talked about a little bit earlier, so I won't repeat all of that. I will add one thing to that, though. I know people who like Metroidvanias such as Super Metroid because of the sequence breaking potential. And there are some people who, like Metroid Dread came out, and they were let down that they couldn't sequence break the way that they were used to in other Metroid games, for example. So this feels like, it feels like Rittzler is a sequence breaker in Metroidvanias of the past. That feels like the design is in here to just be like, we're giving you all these tools. If you think you can get up there, go for it.
Yeah.
See if you can.
I love when developers are all in on that.
Yeah. And that mindset, right? Like, and if you can get up there, cool. I'm not mad at you. I'm not going to soft lock you. You did it. Enjoy what you find. So for people who value that a lot, I think that that's going to be the best part of the Metroidvania experience for you, because the other parts of the experience we already talked about, they can be pretty frustrating or freeing. And it just kind of depends on how you play and what you value. But it is worth like seeing. It's definitely a game that I recommend to anyone who thinks that it sounds cool at this point in the show. Then you probably know, and it retails for like $6 full price. So
is that right? Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't even
So it's not like a huge commitment for money or time to give it a try. I think it's a cool game and it's worth your time.
Yeah, right now, we're in the middle of like a Steam summer sale, which is about to end. By the time this episode is out, that will be done. But when it's on sale, it's 30% off. It's less than $5 American.
Exactly.
$4.19.
Yeah.
What?
So
that's crazy.
There we go. Pretty easy game to recommend if you think that what we've talked about sounds cool.
One thing, one thing I want to go back on with movement tech and like sequence breaking. I did try a little bit of that. I had a new follower on my Twitch channel who goes by N2, who has put, I think they said somewhere between 60 and 70 hours into Pseudoregalia. They've played it multiple times. They do like challenge runs in it. They did a challenge run where they saw how far could I get without the slide jump. So not picking up that upgrade, which is like one of the first big, like substantial upgrades. And they taught me how, that broken bridge that leads to the tower? They taught me how to cross those gaps without the slide jump. And what you have to do is go into first person. We haven't mentioned this, but you can go into first person.
Shit.
And you look down as you walk toward the ledge. You see your shadow. You have to wait for your shadow to disappear as you're looking over the edge. That's what tells you you're as close to the edge without falling. Then you turn around so that your back is facing the gap. And then you leave first person. I think you do like a plunge jump, and then you do a plunge jump cancel, which does a backflip, and you can ledge grab the next ledge. And so he was showing me things like that. So I bring that up too as just an example of some of the challenging tech you can try if that interests people.
Yeah,
it's pretty approachable in some ways. You just have to be willing to do a sequence of inputs, and you can do it.
Yeah, and that's generally how it goes too. Like basically any of the challenges may look intimidating, but you can figure it out. The game encourages you to experiment and find stuff like that. So if that sounds cool, then Pseudoregalia might be the game for you. So, let's see. Speaking of things sounding cool, time for plugs.
Nice.
As I said at the top, Beau is a streamer on Twitch and host of the UnderPlayed podcast. So, Beau, please tell people about the podcast, about your streams, and where people can find you.
Absolutely. I'm the co-host of UnderPlayed, which is an indie game podcast. We've been doing that for a couple years now. My co-host and I, Disco Cola, we each play a secret game every episode, which is where we play an indie game that we don't tell each other, and then we reveal to each other what we played in the moment that we're recording, and then we review those games. We also have a featured game every episode. Those indie games that more people know, things like your Hollow Knights, your Shovel Knights, your, I don't know, maybe someday we'll do Stardew Valley, like those kinds of big games. But in between that, the secret games are highlighting those really special, like lesser known titles. So we try to play a variety of indie games across the landscape. We also have guests on from time to time. Dave, we'd love to have you on as a guest, probably
Absolutely.
early next year if you have time. So I'm looking forward to that as well. So yeah, check us out. We're on all podcast platforms. And then for streaming, I stream usually 2 or 3 times a week on Twitch. I stream primarily indie games. I also play an occasional AAA game here and there. I'm at twitch.tv/BO__PO.
There we go. I'll put links to those things down in the show notes so that people can easily find you there. But I'm a big fan of your streams. I hop in when I'm not on Twitch very often, but I'll hop into your streams if I'm on there. And it's always just a very chill, very good time. Great vibes in the streams.
Thank you.
I enjoy what you do. Much. Yeah, and then UnderPlayed is a great listen. I've found some cool games by listening, and just to give an idea, some recent episodes at the time of recording. The most recent one was the Slay the Princess episode with great friend of Tales from the Backlog, Matt Storm, and then some other ones like Octodad, Her Story, Another Crab's Treasure. So a lot of great stuff. And then I love to shout this out because I think it's really cool when indie game podcasts talk about games that I've never heard of, because like I pay attention to a lot of games. I play a lot of games, play a lot of indie games. So we're here with Pseudoregalia. But I love when indie game podcasts will talk about anything. And so a lot of your secret games are games that I've legit never heard of before. And so it's always fun to hear about cool games that, you might love. You just need someone to introduce them to you.
Yeah.
So I think you guys do a great job of that.
I discover so many games just through my co-host, Disco Cola. He'll bring a game to an episode, and I'm like, we usually react right away when we reveal what our secret game is. And we'll go, sometimes we'll go like, oh yeah, I know that. Or like, I've played that. A lot of times he'll say what his secret game is. And I'm like, I have never heard of that. Yeah. So we get kind of that whole mixture of games you've probably heard of, maybe through a showcase, maybe through a friend, maybe through the Steam front page, and then also things I've never heard of.
Right. One question for you. Have you guys ever brought the same secret game to an episode?
No, I think Disco Cola secretly wishes that would happen because I think that would make him giddy in a way. But my OCD would probably like make me cry if that happens.
Oh no.
And so I kind of have a secret plan for if that happens. I kind of want to prep like a secondary secret game just to have in my back pocket in case that does ever happen. I don't think it will happen because another thing that's cool is Disco Cola usually tries to find some kind of synergy between his chosen secret game and our featured game. So if we're reviewing a horror game as a featured game, he might try to play a horror secret game. Or if we're reviewing Dredge, I don't remember what his secret game was for that one. He might play a game that has boats in it. You know what I mean? So he tries to find like some commonality, something that makes sense, something poetically tied into what we're reviewing as the featured review. And I tend to just do a random grab bag game. I try to pick something. Sometimes I pick something wildly different.
The opposite. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another way we try to strive for variety too.
Very cool. Yeah, I always wonder. I know my friends over at the Indie Quest podcast do a very similar thing,
Oh,
and they find themselves playing like chicken with each other. Like, who's going to talk about blueprints this week? I guess
Yeah.
can I pick something else and hope someone else brings that game up? So like,
Yes.
always fun.
We have blueprints coming up this season. It'll
Hell
be the
yeah.
5th episode of the season. I know you just recorded an episode
Hmm.
on that, and we're going to have a guest for that episode. It's going to be a writer from Patch Magazine. He's going
Nice.
to join us for that. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, definitely recommend that everyone check out UnderPlayed and check out the streams. And again, there will be links down in the show notes so that everyone can easily find those. And for me, I did most of my plugs at the beginning of the show. The last one is the Discord server, which is a great place to come in, share what you're playing. But we're also a community that goes beyond just video games. I do think that a lot of us genuinely care about each other. And so we talk about what's going on in our lives. We talk about our pets. We share pictures of our food and our travels. And you can also talk about the podcast, of course. But it's a great group of people in there. And there's an invite link down in the show notes if you would like to join us. So, with all of that being said, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we will likely have a shorter, for this podcast, spoiler section. All right, before we get to full spoiler time for Pseudoregalia, I'd like to say thank you to the patrons who help support the show. A big thank you and shout out goes out to Chris Nelson, Zulgeek, Chris Copleen, Eric Guess, Rick Firestone, Nick Vicori, Soccer, Cupcake, Kyle, Christian S., Matt aka Stormageddon, JD, Doug Leaf, Jason Emery, Brian Skirsha, Jenny E., Marcus O'Neill, Stefan, Drellish, Rigamort, Silcanet, Levi, John E., Aliasi, Joseph Hooper, Yorkie Duval, Aaron, Squill, Alan K., Doug T., Retro Overdrive, Lucas from Game Over Hell, David Sander, and many more. Thank you all for your support. It means a lot to me, and it really helps out in a lot of different ways. And if anyone out there would like to join these fine folks, you can do so at patreon.com/realdavejackson. Now, with that being said, let's get back to full spoiler time for Pseudoregalia. All right, we're back. Full spoiler time for Pseudoregalia, and as always, this will not be a linear walk through the game. It is a non-linear game, but that's how we always handle spoiler sections here. So if you don't want to hear about the final boss, for example, please jump out. We might talk about it in 10 seconds. So I think we'll save the final boss for a second. Earlier, I just want to confirm with you that part at the tower, when you get to the plaque and it says something about the person with the relics of the sun or some shit like that will open the tower. And I'd been collecting upgrades that are all called the sun greaves or the sunlight walk or something like that. And so I was like, oh, okay, I have to find all the upgrades. I'll come back here. The tower door will open. It will react to all of the things that I've collected. And then I'll go in. And that's the final, I thought the final area or boss would be behind that.
Oh.
So that's why I read that plaque and I walked away, and I just completely missed that you can like wall jump up one of the little supports on the bridge and get into the tower that way.
I'm so glad you brought this up because we had similar levels of misunderstanding, but still slightly different. So I read that plaque. I saw the thing about the 3 sun powers, and I did interpret it as in order to infiltrate this place, you need 3 powers of the sun. And I go in my abilities.
Which is true. That's true.
Which is true. But I was reading it a little too literally, I think, because I was looking for the literal, like verbatim word sun in my powers. And I think I had like something called the sun greaves, like you maybe have mentioned, the sun, something else. And then I had like solar or something. And I thought, well, solar, that sounds like a sun power, but maybe I need 3 powers that are called sun something. That's what kind of drove me away the first time, is because I only had 2 things called the sun something. And I did try to like jump up there. I couldn't get up there. I saw that ledge, and I did try to wall. I did try to wall jump, and for some reason, I just thought, I can't get up there yet. I need something. Maybe I need a higher jump or another wall jump. Maybe that would work.
You never know what you're going to get in a game like this.
So that's what drove me away a few times. And also the thing that kept tripping me up, the thing that I was so convinced would happen, was that we see the blue vines growing on things.
Yeah.
And I think the blue vines are like growing over a certain ledge in the game that almost look like a wall that you can climb. And I'm thinking like, oh, maybe we get an upgrade that lets us climb up blue vines. And there are blue vines on that part of the castle. I couldn't find anything that let me climb blue vines. I think that's maybe that's this game's version of yellow paint, where it's like, hey, this is an important ledge, but that's it.
Could be.
So maybe that's like some of the most glaring signposting this game does do, is use that stuff.
Could be. I figured it out as I was climbing up that kind of bridge outside of the tower. It's not that the gate is going to open when you bring the 3 upgrade items here with the name of the sun. It's if you have the 3 upgrade items, the 3 main ones, then you can do the platforming.
Yes.
You're able to get up there.
Yes.
And, for all of the times when I feel like a genius playing video games, I'm just consistently humbled by like, it's not that obtuse of a clue, right? It's not that weird, but I just looked at that and I was like, well, I don't have it. See you later. And I just left.
We both overthought it, but in like different ways. Isn't that incredible? Yeah.
Different video game logic, the wrong video game logic.
Yes, exactly. I did think it was cool though, as we were climbing that, I'm tilting the camera up and I'm seeing more of the roof and the ledges and stuff. And I'm realizing, oh, that's the path. And I start drawing the path in my mind. I thought that was cool that we sort of took a roundabout way to get into that place. And then that place up there, that's how we get the wall run in there. And then climbing up using some abilities lets us get onto the roof. And that's where we get some hints about where the major keys are, which is one area of the game where we actually get a roadmap about what we're supposed to do. And I thought that was really cool. I thought that was like really nice clarity, really nice direction. And that's what really shaved off a lot of what otherwise would have taken a lot longer of my playtime, which is like, I know I need to now go to the Twilight Theater and I need to go to the underbelly for my last 2 keys. I had 3 major keys at that point, and that was the game just like confirming, yes, find those 5 major keys. Here's the big ass door. Like, obviously this is where you're going. Like, ta-da, here's the big thing. So the tower is where you need to go. And I think you said something like, the tower seemed like the final area of the game. It kind of is. But before we open that door, it does give us those clues. And I really appreciated that.
Yep. The clues on the keys were like 80% helpful enough for me. There was one of the major keys I had to look up where it was, because the thing on the clue on the key was like, I think it was the one in the underbelly where it was like, it's in a room full of black orbs or something like that. And I couldn't find that room. So it wasn't helpful. Cause there's that huge kind of central room in the underbelly that has like 11 doors coming off it in every single direction.
Yes.
And so I just like missed a door. And that was the part where I was like, I've explored this so much. And you have a bunch of times when you enter a room and you're like, there's 3 rooms here. Well, I'll do this one first, then this one, then this one. But door 2 takes me to a completely different area. And then I just forgot about door 3. And so it's a thing. That's a Pseudoregalia thing right there.
There's a path in the underbelly that goes on and on and on and on and on. And I'm like, what is this leading to? And I think eventually it led back to a place I had been. And I was like, what was that for? What?
Yeah. And the whole time you're going through that corridor, in the back of your head, you're like, there's that other door. Don't forget the
I
other door. And
know,
then I forgot the other
yes. And
door.
that's why my kingdom for a marking system on the map, because
Yep.
I would just throw that on there and then it would be out of my mind.
Exactly. Yeah. Just a couple of them. You don't have to go crazy. It doesn't have to be the Breath of the Wild, map pin
No,
system,
yeah.
but just let me mark like a door I don't want to forget about. Give me one, just one.
Give me one. I'll take it.
Yeah. So as far as like the collection of the upgrades and stuff, that's really the only stuff that sticks out notably to me. I think the hardest section in the game, I guess, as far as platforming goes, was that outside section. This was a part where I was like, am I doing this the right way? Like, am I trying to be cute here and like sequence break? You have to like wall kick up the outside of a building in this one part.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you have to like throw your thing with that throw upgrade and time hitting these switches and jumping over platforms and stuff.
Yeah.
There was one part of that where I couldn't figure out, like, am I supposed to be out here or am I just like going nuts with, trying to find the right place? So I'll wall kick off of anything at this point and see if it helps. That's the only other notable thing for me.
Yeah. So there was a sequence of like, I feel like they were on the interior, platforming challenges across really long stretches of like harmful purple goo. There's a lot of that in this game.
Yeah.
And you have to reach a pole and then you have to like wall kick across another gap from that pole. It just felt like there were very few checkpoints in that section and it's getting progressively harder and harder. But that's another place where I found myself every time I ran out of health and I started back at the last save point, I would get back to where I was a little bit faster. So like I am learning and getting better. It's just a little tedious sometimes.
Yeah.
There were times where you had a stool where you could heal. You could sit down and heal. And because the game actually, I think, knows how difficult it is. So it's like, okay, we're going to throw you a bone here. We're going to let you heal so you don't have to reload the save multiple times. So that was super appreciated.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's talk about this story a little bit. And it starts with the final boss. So the final boss is like a real bullet hell experience, and the music is awesome. I don't remember if I mentioned that before, but it's a very cool song. And the final boss took me 2 tries to beat it, but they're long tries, like 5 minutes or so to fight it. And it has a bunch of bullet hell attacks. Something I think is neat is that you can hit the attacks back at it. Like it throws these orbs at you, and if you time your swing right, you can hit it back, like Ganondorf in Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
And there's these hand enemies in like the regular game that shoot the light balls.
Yeah.
And you can hit those back, but
they don't harm
the plane that you hit them back on will never hit the hands.
No, it goes over the finger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just teaching you that you can hit projectiles, and I promise at the end of the game this is going to pay off. But
it will. Yeah. Practice. Yeah. It's worth practicing at least. You do prevent damage when you reflect those lightning balls from the hands. But that comes back in the final boss. And I found that every projectile I tried hitting back did hit. That was super satisfying.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a Nier Automata looking bullet hell final boss fight. And the fight itself is not super noteworthy other than what we've already said. But the noteworthy thing is it appears to be the princess of the castle. There was something throughout the course of the game that gave me the idea. Maybe it was text, maybe it was the game straight up telling me, I don't remember, but that this involved the princess. Maybe the princess's name is Sansa, as in Castle Sansa.
Oh, yeah.
But I remember getting to the fight and being like, oh, so I think we're in the princess's dream, and now I'm fighting the princess. What's up? What's going on here with this as far as the story goes? And I have some ideas, but that was, for playing so much of the game and honestly not thinking at all about the story, to have it kind of come back in a way that got my brain turning a little bit was nice. I always appreciate it.
Yeah, it comes out of nowhere in a way. It's like, this has kind of always mattered. It's the reason why this is all happening. And now here it is, that we're reckoning with whatever conflict is we're trying to solve. Whatever Sybil is here for, this is happening right now.
Right.
And yeah, so we're fighting what appears to be the princess. There are some comments made after we win the fight. I'm not going to remember all of that verbatim, but there is a thankfulness there. There's like even a comment on Sybil herself,
Yeah.
being the bunny goat cat lady or whatever. I think that happens at that moment. It might be implied that Sybil is taking on this appearance as like a disguise to be in this
Mm.
world, or because it's a dream, she's just taking on this new aesthetic. And so maybe if she does this in other dreams, maybe she always kind of looks different depending on what world she's stepping into.
Could be.
There are the other goats in the world, and so we're sort of taking on their look in a way. Like at least it's our look is inspired by them. So maybe there's something there that if they made a sequel, that'd be interesting to explore. Maybe it's pseudo whatever, not regalia, but whatever the sequel is inspired by. That could
Yeah.
inform how we look in the next one. I don't know. But when it comes to the princess, I didn't really think about like what was going on with her, why this was all happening until after I finished.
Right.
And Dave, do you ever like experience another piece of media that informs how you look at another piece of media you've recently consumed?
Sure. Yeah.
This happened to me days after I finished Pseudoregalia. I, of all things, I happened to rewatch the movie Titanic.
Uh-huh. A little indie movie.
Little
Yeah.
indie movie. Some of you might not have heard of Titanic,
Yeah.
directed by James Cameron. But I actually thought about Sybil while I was watching Rose in
Mm-hmm.
Titanic. In Titanic, Rose is part of this upper class. She's part of the upper class on the Titanic ship. And as she's an old woman remembering her youth, she says something like, I was expected to behave a certain way around all of the other rich people, but inside I was screaming. She doesn't
Mm-hmm.
want this life. And so that made me think like, oh my gosh, maybe this princess is in this place in the world and has this status that she doesn't want. She has something she didn't choose and she feels suffocated and trapped. And
Yeah.
she's in such distress and in such a low place that she is living in a nightmare and she needs someone to intervene. And that's Sybil.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my interpretation that I'm going with now. There might be text at the end of the game that conflicts with that. But I'm curious if you have other takeaways or other observations about the end.
That was basically what I thought too, was that Sybil is for hire, basically, for lack of a better term, to go into dreams and help, whatever that means. And so in this dream, it kind of like starts to sound dumber if I be like, okay, so in this dream she goes in and she beats the shit out of the evil version of the princess, and that fixes things, you know? Because there's I mean, Psychonauts, which I just played, is kind of similar. Like you go into the psyche of somebody and you help them process a trauma or to get things in order inside of their mind so that they can work through things themselves or so they can function, etc. And so this is similar just in dreams. And so Sybil goes into a dream. Maybe that's like the window into the psyche where she can help.
Yeah.
And so if you're like, okay, so what does she actually do in there? She beats up the evil version of the princess but the thing that I definitely agree with you there is the fact that that's what she's doing and that's why she's there, is because the princess, for whatever reason, is feeling depressed or stifled or all of the above. And this is something that could help within the world too. Like she knows this is happening. I don't like, did she request Sybil? Did her family pull some strings to get Sybil for hire?
Super interesting. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Like how, why, like how did she get her there? Yeah.
Right. Because in that text at the end, I actually wrote it down. The princess thanks Sybil and says she'll remember to write this down when she wakes up. So like the princess knows this is happening too. So it's not like a To the Moon, if you played that.
Yes, I have.
It's not like that. The princess is aware that this is going on. It's just, yeah, very special type of like spy almost.
Yeah,
Come
definitely.
infiltrate my dreams, collect all the keys to get in the most locked away part of my psyche and defeat, again, sounds kind of dumb, defeat the evil version of me and then by doing that it's going to fix me.
It's kind of got some Inception going on.
Uh-huh.
She's got a particular set of skills. She's done
Yeah.
this many
Yeah.
times. The spy sort of thing makes sense. Yeah, no, it's super good. It's interesting that like I don't care about the story that much leading up to this point, and then the end sort of makes me think back over the next week or so since finishing. I've continued to think back to this character.
Mm-hmm.
It also reminds me of Celeste. This was the thing I was going to mention. Celeste, there might be like a Madeline Badeline thing going on here.
It could be.
Yeah, I don't know.
Different takeaway than, the lesson you learn with Madeline and Badeline is very different from what
Sure.
Sybil does in this dream. But yeah, it could be. It could just be that like there is the devil on my shoulder needs to be defeated for me to be able to live a healthy life, and I can't do it by myself. So we pay Sybil's contracting agency to get in here,
Yeah.
get in here and fix things.
Maybe it could be a metaphor for like, you can't always do everything alone. Like, you might need therapy. You might need a professional to talk to or something
Right.
like that.
And like you said at the beginning of the game, Sybil says like, I hope I'm not too late.
Yeah.
Hopefully I can still save this person. And she does. And it makes me wonder, I don't know what Rittzler is up to, but if you set up a universe like this, then you basically have infinite possibility for more Pseudoregalia games to just be like, well, here's a different character with a different dream world made up of a different setting, twisted and stretched and everything like that. It doesn't have to be medieval fantasy next time. It could be something else. It could be sci-fi. Those are the two genres.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the name of the game itself is so fascinating. I wasn't thinking about the etymology of the name, but if you break apart the compound word, like pseudo meaning false, and then regalia meaning like royalty or like, the upper class or whatever, like false royalty, that's an interesting idea there. Like that's probably telling us a lot more than we think it is. And so maybe the next game could be pseudo something, fill in the blank.
What if she's not a princess? What if she's just like someone who like she's just a normal person, but has this like bad quality where she thinks she's above everybody.
Oh,
and
I like
we need to kill the princess part and
slay the princess.
We need to slay the princess. Exactly.
Yeah. That is interesting too, Dave. And I think it's all valid. I think this is one of the reasons why people are really attached to this game and why people talk about it long after playing it. It seems like the people who really love it are super fans. Lots of people love making art on this game. I think there's something mysterious. When there's something mysterious enough that you can have inferences and you can have hypotheses about things, I think that gets people talking. And then you've got all the forum posts and people discussing what everything might mean. That's not always my inherently favorite thing to do, but I'm very happy for the people who find enjoyment in this beyond just the 5 or 6 hours it takes to beat it.
Yeah. And it's fun to come on the show and, just kind of what if and have some fun with that. To be honest, I'm not super interested in learning the answers to this. I just kind of have fun, hey, what if this was the case? Sure. And it would be cool if they use, because the idea of this kind of hero that goes into people's dreams and stuff, it's a cool idea. It's been explored in lots of other stories. It's just a cool idea. So I'm into that. The super fans, I think there's 2 types of super fans. There's the movement speedrun mastery super fans, and then there's the Sybil super fans, just like the design.
Yeah, you said it. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think this has been a good time, just shooting the shit a little bit about the story, but a good episode about the other aspects of the game before we hit that spoiler wall, especially. So, Beau, thank you for coming on the show. and doing this with me. This has been a good time.
Absolutely, Dave. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I look forward to more collaborations in the future. I also look forward to hearing many more Tales from the Backlog episodes in my future as well. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and there will be lots of more UnderPlayed episodes and streams in my future. So good times on the show here. I'll definitely have you back on sometime. Looking forward to more stuff together. And yeah, for everyone who's still here, one more plug for you to check out UnderPlayed, check out Beau's Twitch streams. They're a good time. And you're my hero. Tune in next week for the next game to come out of the backlog.
You should listen to the Character Issues podcast. It's a scientific podcast where me, Brian Edwards, your host du jour, and my co-hosts, Leah Haydu.
Everyone loves Blitzball. I hate Blitzball. Fuck Blitzball.
And Rich Davison.
Are you implying that he intentionally tried to run over his daughter and then sort of bloviated a journey around Silent Hill to make sure that she could bleed out in the process?
Work towards building a list of the greatest video game characters of all time. Every character will be ranked. Every character shall be ranked. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you find your podcast. Character Issues is available for download. So, if you're interested in the hard-nosed science and definitely not a comedy podcast hosted by a couple of numbskulls, you should check out the Character Issues podcast because, let's face it, it's better if you do.
Do you feel like you're the only person in your circle who wants to go deep about video games regularly?
We were like that too, until now.
Welcome to Crossplay Conversations, the brand new bi-weekly topical video game podcast from Luke Lewis,
Joseph Hooper,
and Jacob McCoy.
With many years of breaking it down separately on shows like the Left Behind Game Club, Player Podcast, and Lukewarm Games, the gang is finally coming together to publish their gaming group chat in audio form every other week.
Expect roundtable reviews of the latest games, profiles of upcoming indies, and insightful conversations about essential topics in the video game industry. All with a mostly positive, insightful, and fun style.
Help us out by subscribing on your podcast platform of choice to get the first episodes delivered straight to your feed.
And follow us on Twitter at Crossplay Convos for updates about the show.
Cheers and happy gaming.